The beginning of our shows is so funny sometimes. Hey, everyone. We're hoping you can see us right now. Can you see us?
Hey, everybody.
Can you see us? Baby, can you see us?
TGIF.
Hello. It's Friday.
Thank you.
It is Friday. It is Fierce Female Friday. And look who's back. Leslie's here. Woohoo!
I missed everybody. Great to see you.
Yay, yay. We are so happy that you're back, and we're happy that your mouth is working and you are able to join us. As you can see, we also have the fabulous Terri Murphy with us today. We're going to introduce her in just a few. You'll also notice that one of us is missing, Ms. Sarah. Oh, she is taking some downtime with her amazing family. So hopefully she's not watching, but if you are, hi, Sarah. So we have some really fun things to talk about and shout out today. As I am reading through these amazing kudos, we'd love to know where you're watching from today. Are you at home? Are you on the road? Are you at the beach? Are you in the mountains? Are you by the fireplace? Are you by the pool? Let us know. We love to know where you are watching from. Okay, so book club updates. I'm going to start there because we were going to do a book club next week. However, no way. We know when to say reel it back. And this was one of those moments. So we're going to do how women rise in January. And we're going to do December's The Alchemist with Nina Dosange on the 15th at 2:30 p.m. We are so excited to go through this with Nina. If you attended the WomanUP virtual event, you heard her beautiful solo talk. And she shared during that talk that she goes through The Alchemist every single December. And so we knocked on her door and said, would you lead us through your process? And of course, her giving, loving self said, absolutely. So she is going to be sharing her process that she goes through every single December with The Alchemist, again, on the 15th of December at 2:30 p.m. PT. I will be sure to drop the Facebook link in the comments so that you can all RSVP for that on Zoom and get it on your calendar. We also had some epic glass breaking moments this week, actually this month. So let's start with the most recent, which is Sue Yannicka. Whoop, whoop. Everyone, the very first woman to run Realty Franchise Group. And we know her.
She's amazing.
We know
She's
her.
just so qualified for that position. Oh my goodness.
Like I was crying. I will admit it wholeheartedly. I wept. And every time I type about it, I'm going to cry again. It means something. It means everything. So excited to see what she's going to do inside Realogy. She's going to have conversations with so many leaders across so many brands, and she is going to just take it to the next level. So congratulations, Sue. Your lioness pride is here. Also, Christian Barnes, who actually is part of the Realogy family with Better Homes and Garden out in Kansas City, just took over as the president and CEO out there of the BH&G. So another amazing move. And then our very own Tamara Szyminski was inducted into the Rebac Hall of Fame, REBAC Hall of Fame, everyone. And that is a very small list. So we give everyone claps, snaps,
yeah,
all the things. We're so very proud of you. This leads me to remember, if something amazing happens in your lives, if you receive a promotion, if you open a brokerage, if your best friend opens a brokerage, if somebody you don't even know out there is opening her own brokerage, please share her information on the Facebook group so that we can celebrate these moments together. These are our favorite things. Okay, so 2 more things. 1, the Q4 Wisdom Series is rocking. We have had some amazing topics around building brand, around being safe and prepared for disasters and crisis, creating communities. Next week, have you heard who's coming? Have you ladies heard who's coming? We have Alex Chu and Dottie Herman coming in to talk about
That's wonderful.
leveling up your negotiation skills. Now, these are two women who have epic backgrounds. Alex has been on our stage many times. We have tried so often to sync schedules with Dottie, and it just hasn't worked. And when she heard about this opportunity, she raised her hand and said, hell yes. So we have Dottie and Alex coming in next Wednesday, the 25th at 11 a.m. PT to talk about leveling up your negotiation skills. You can wait for the link, or you can go straight to the website, IamWomanUp.com/wisdom series, and sign up for it. If you sign up for it and you can't make it, it's okay. You will be the first to receive the link to the replay. So get your spot over there, then crack open a brand new journal. Make sure you've got a couple pens, because I am sure there is so much wisdom that is going to be dropped during that. And then last but not least, we have brand new swag in the shop ready for you, so that if you have somebody that you want to don with Woman Up gear, we've got hats, we've got t-shirts, we've got journals, we've got mugs, we've got white mugs, we've got black mugs, we've got all sorts of amazing little bags for your laptops, for your lipsticks, you name it. We have a whole category under 20 bucks. So if you want to bless people, now is the time to get yourself ordered. Get on in there and do some shopping. The link is over on IamWomanUp.com, but I'll drop the direct one in here as well. Woo! So much going on in the Woman
Lots
Up
of
community.
news.
I know, right? Sarah did let me know about the Steps Towards Home Ownership, the event that's taking place. I don't know if any of you have signed up for this yet, but if you haven't registered, you can do so on the link that I'm going to drop in here. It's on.car.org/steps SV20. The steps to financing the American dream provides realtors. Yeah, that's all of you, with valuable information on preparing your clients to achieve home ownership through emphasis on lending and down payment assistance programs. We love that. Removing the friction to close, all designed to help you and your clients achieve homeownership. So that team has put together an amazing event on 12/8. So on December 8th, make sure that you get yourself registered for that. I know that the team that works with Sarah has been putting some amazing content together for you. So make sure you get yourself signed up for that. All right, Leslie, are you ready? I need to catch my breath.
Please do. And I'm going to give a very, I just can't wait to talk to Terri. So I've just got maybe a few takeaways in terms of the market. We released our October data just a couple of days ago, and no surprise, sales are strong, prices are strong, inventory is very low. We've got a 2-month supply statewide, which is, we haven't seen that in 10 years. And the velocity of the market is faster than we've ever recorded. The median time on the market was only 10 days. So that, we put out a press release, and we can put it in the chat with all the charts and all the data. One thing I just want to point out, we did a survey asking realtors if they knew of sellers who were holding back because of COVID. And last week, almost 50% said, yes, I do. I do know somebody who's been holding back. So that's a potential look at more listings going forward when you're looking at 2021. So really don't forget that aspect. And then the other thing that happened this week is we had the National Association of Realtors releasing their forecast for 2021. Some of you may have seen Lawrence do it. It's also recorded and available on a link. But NAR next year is seeing a 9% increase in sales and a 3% increase in prices. So while there's a tremendous amount of concern about where the overall economy is going, right? We're encouraged by the vaccines. We're worried about lockdowns in the near term. The housing market, with historically low rates, like the lowest rates we've ever seen. Freddie Mac this week, I think it was 2.73% for a 30-year fixed, and all of the changes that people are making in terms of what they want to buy and where they want to buy it bodes very well for the market. So take advantage of it because clients need you. And that's really all I want to say, because I want to really get into talking to Terri.
Awesome. I love it. All good and very hopeful news. Thank goodness. Well, I know this woman really doesn't need a big introduction, especially for those of you who joined us in 2018, because she left an imprint on our lives. And then we had the best belly laughs during her session in 2018. So if you don't recognize her from the Downtown LA Woman Up event, our community has been blessed by this woman's wisdom around the art of engagement through authentic communication and, of course, laughter. She is the president of Terri Murphy Communications, CIO of US Learning, a global interactive on-demand learning and training company based in Memphis, Tennessee. Woo!
Right,
As a
fit right in.
consultant,
Yep, fit right in.
Road trip.
whoop, whoop. I love it. As a consultant to several Fortune 500 companies, this woman understands the critical need to interface online communication strategies that position her clients as, oh, I love this, the celebrity authority in their chosen space. Don't we all need a little more of that? Now, Terri has published 5 books, produces and hosts programs on TV, radio, she does global virtual training. She's been featured on ABC, NBC, CNBC as a sales expert. And I'm sure so many other platforms that we don't even have access to quite yet. So Terri, welcome to the show. How are you?
Oh, molto piacere. I am great and so happy to be here. And I have to tell you that this is really the fun part. Woman Up is just amazing. And I'm so grateful to you for putting it together.
Well, I know that your segment, like I said, in 2018 had us all in belly laughs. And then you led the discussion around empowering women around you this year at the virtual event. And we unfortunately don't have our little avatars to remind everybody what you look like there.
Thank God.
Right? Exactly.
My avatar looked like she had some disease. And then she looked like she'd been drinking heavily. I found her running up on stage, shaking her hands. I had to take my name off because I knew that people would be concerned about my mental health. So I absolutely, and she looked a lot like the nuns that used to teach catechism. I don't know, I couldn't get the look. Everybody else was adorable, you with the hat. I, on the other hand, looked like I was in witness protection. It did not look good. It just wasn't attractive.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
But it was because of Woman Up and because I was so blessed to be a part of the closing program, I got to work with Sue Yannicone, who knew, right? Who knew? And we did a lot of work behind the scenes because none of us were really good at avatars, and with Melissa Sophia. And I have to tell you, that was that little sparkle, Leslie, in the universe where you get this little tiny electronic connection. And look where she is now. And I had just interviewed her for RIS Media, is doing a whole program in women in leadership. And I was like, oh my God, I know this woman. And she's amazing. She's just an amazing, all of us are amazing, but she particularly combines Jersey, leadership, motherhood. She's got a 10-year-old with artwork behind her, working out, drinking things that people don't want to drink. She's, protein things. She's so much fun to be around. I love her.
Yeah, so true. So true.
Yeah, I interviewed her earlier this year for our Woman Up white paper series and just heard so many wonderful stories. And she just really is like an amazing kick-ass mom, I just remember she was talking about her job and just how everything kept piling on. And she just looked at her daughter and saying, "You're staying home this week," or whatever it was. And it's just, that's the way it is. That's how we're going to get through all this. And I just thought, you are just great.
Well,
what a role model.
What I really appreciated in my interview with her was her grasp of, how do I say this, appropriate boundaries. So that people you will hear often in women in leadership because they're high adaptability and this and that. And she just had one of those days. she came down, looked at her husband and her daughter and said, I'm going to bed, done. It was like, good for you. I mean, it's so often we'll just bleed through it, especially the Catholic girls, we'll just bleed through it and keep going. And she just went, nope, I'm done. And I just have to admire that in so many ways without beating herself
She's one
up.
of those no as a complete sentence kind of person.
I know. I never learned
Right?
that.
I just admire that so much.
I did too. Yeah. So thank you very much for that. That was all because of you guys that I got to meet with her, and it's made my life better. It's given me a new perspective. I really enjoyed that.
It's one of the beautiful elements of the WomanUP community. That's for sure. The connections.
Well, when you think about how many, and Leslie, you and I have been around this forever, when you think about how many conventions and events and programs and stuff that we've been at, and when you look back at it, Deborah, and you look back down that road, just a glance, and you see that it was those fragile, tiny connections. You met somebody at WomanUP, you met somebody, and it grew into, I mean, with all the millions of people that you touch, that one gift right there just kept on giving, and it flourished in a way that something else. And so to me, there's a little divine blessing there. And you have to, and you're responsible for a lot of that with WomanUP. I mean, why else would you meet the first female CEO on its week who's too busy for herself, let alone you? It's just a gift, and I'm grateful.
Love it. Love it, love it, love it.
So anyway, getting into the whole leadership thing, I think we wanted to start by just, as far back as you can remember, tell us about your very first leadership role.
I've been bossy my whole life. Okay. I've just been bossy.
No, you've been a leader your whole life.
Well, I was thinking about that because I mean, as old as I am, I can't remember too much. And I was thinking the first time I was really the leader. And I remember we were teaching Sunday school catechism classes, and there was a CYO, the Catholic Youth Organization. And I don't know, I mean, I was like 9, and I was ordering donuts, getting them donated. And then we were doing this event and that event. And I'm thinking to myself, and then to generate money, now don't laugh really hard here, but we would put on these dances at the local center and get sponsorships, and everybody would have fun. And I mean, you're hiring bands and getting, permits. I'm thinking 10, it really, I still had the unibrow and the matching mustache. I wasn't, that cool, but I was managing things like that years ago, thinking to myself, well, who made you the leader? But 9 kids, one bedroom, kids that kind of look like you, but really aren't the family. And you're doing all of that. I guess you have to take a leadership role because you're the firstborn, which we don't say oldest anymore. And you're responsible. I mean, they made you responsible for everybody else.
You were the first.
Yeah, we don't say oldest. Yeah, no. They wanted a boy. The Italians. They wanted a boy, and I
know everybody. Look, it's not just the Italians. It's like,
it was, except that when you're first generation, they're like, oh, we're so sorry. Try again. Try again. So I think I was the achiever early. But you know what? I just took responsibility very seriously, and still, unfortunately, do. Everybody's like, "Oh, lighten up." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm not lightning. Lightning has not happened."
So you've got the personality for it, but what was your first actual position in addition to telling your siblings what to do?
I think being president of the CYO organization.
Oh, okay, got it.
Yeah, that was my first one, and then it kind of goes from there. Girl Scouts, anybody that needed a leader, I was there. But it really got into it, right? Because I was going to take over anyway. But I think as I got into real estate, then, and this is kind of tragic, but I didn't have the money to pay for some of the courses. So I got into teaching them so that I could learn them while I was teaching them. And so then I was on every flipping committee you could be, every committee. I never wanted to be president or anything. I just wanted to be of value because I was so desperate to advance my own skill set. And then from there, I founded the Women's Council of Realtors chapter in Illinois. Nobody knew what that was, having no idea that the board would support us. Did that. I was president for 2 years because nobody else wanted it at that time. And then it just kept going. I mean, and NAR, the first meeting I was at, I was in awe of, the levels of leadership and leadership on a global level, so to speak. And so it just kept going. And then I realized that there were probably other women or girls that didn't know that it was okay to be bossy or to be responsible. And so I founded the Women's Wisdom Network back in 1995, which was my attempt on helping women through other women like you, Leslie and Deborah, who have had a focus or a perspective that we didn't have because we were here and you were there. So it was a win-win for me. And it was before its time because we didn't have the platforms that we have now.
Right.
But I just know that if you want to get it done, one of my favorite books is The Four Agreements by Miguel Ruiz. And being impeccable with your word is a tough one, because if you haven't, in the South, they like to say, if you let your hummingbird mouth overcome your alligator butt, you say yes to a lot of things. And so you want to be intentional with yes, whether you're taking somebody's business card or going to send you a recipe or whatever you say yes to, you better come through. And I think good leadership is, that's one of the, for me, a core value in leadership is you walk the talk. So
your hummingbird mouth and your alligator butt.
Well, it does now. They don't say butt down here, but yeah, it's not. You let your alligator mouth overcome, your hummingbird mouth overcome your alligator butt. Meaning one will flit around and do everything, and the other one's like, not so much.
The visual that I get in my head is like some creepy, like mythological character.
I'm just saying, you move to the South, there are some.
It's on a T-shirt somewhere, I'm sure.
So you come from Chicago and you move south, you get some. You're like, what? This is so good. It's slap your mama good. I'm like, you would slap your mother? I mean, seriously? But that's one of their, and I fit right in here, by the way.
Well, that's the thing about the journey of our leadership, right? Is that I think for most of us, there's a spark when we're kids. And we don't even realize the spark, whether it was the kids who were doing the lemonade stands or delivering newspapers or, teaching at the Sunday school, whatever it is. And I love what you said about how, like, wherever anybody needed a leader, I was right there. Right. And I don't know if when we were kids or even really until the last 10, 15 years that women started recalling those in such a positive way, right? Because we were always kind of categorized as bossy when we were kids back then. Now we speak differently to our children now. I know that whenever Leslie sends pictures or little videos with Izzy and her mom, it's these intelligent conversations that we're having with our children now. And I think
notice that though?
I think it's a beautiful thing.
They're so
very different world.
Different. Yeah, it's a different world, and it's okay to lead. Years ago it wasn't really all that positive.
No.
And Leslie, they used to say to me, I talk too much. Well, yep, I did. Now I'm getting paid for it.
Yeah. Well, and I really think that this is an important part of the conversation, ladies, because I think that what we're seeing in action is we've learned better and now we're doing better. Right. We're not saying, well, it's always been done this way. This is actually one of those moments where we can say, look, we have changed. We've learned that what we speak over our children matters, that how we speak to our daughters and our sons matters. And we need to be very conscious of it. And I think that's, I don't know what grade school report cards look like anymore. Let's just say this year, they're probably, although there probably are still chatty kids, but I don't know if teachers still write things like she talks too much or, who knows?
Well, and just, you bring up a good point, Leslie. It depends on, of course, the parenting, but my poor mom, she had all these kids and no support. And so I had to take a leadership role to help her. And I wish now I knew more about that as a kid, because it was a lot of responsibility for a kid to take care of a bunch of other kids, plus kids that weren't yours, because they were going to get you if something went wrong. But I really, I've got to say that no matter how traumatic that might have sounded, it brings you to where you are today.
Yeah.
And if being more responsible than less responsible is a bad thing, too bad, too sad, I'm there. I just feel like you just mentioned, Deborah, safety. And when you look at relationships, you look at clients, customers, sales situations, you want to be safe and you want to be able to trust that person. And there's nothing more that feels good, whether you are a lead, whether you're a team leader or you're part of a team that leads, that you know everybody's rowing this direction. The core values are there. They correlate with behavior, and the behavior is the example, and then people want to be around. And not because you want to be popular, but because they feel like it's a good place to be. And it's not about good or bad, it's about your values. So I guess being the president of the CYO, it was my first job, and I haven't gotten over it yet. Okay. I mean, I just have not.
Well, you've created so many different communities and served so many different communities along the way. I think we see that, and I'm sure Leslie would agree with us. I mean, we see that similarity in every single leader we interview on the show, right?
Yeah,
That it does go back to that part. And again, they might not have even labeled themselves as a leader. It was what they did, right? They were,
yeah, I will tell you one of the things I'm hoping that Izzy gets, because I just rent children, because I never had any on purpose. But well, I saw aliens, so that was out of the question. I was like, mother had too many. But I will tell you that self-value seems to be a common denominator in women in general, and surprisingly in some of the men I've interviewed in the men's room. And it's like it affects every level of business and personal life. If you don't have the value, you don't think you have the value, and like, who told you that? And you remember being a kid going, who do you think you are? And that kind of thing. And it's not about inflating somebody's ego, but helping them connect with the value that they bring to a puzzle, because they're the only piece. I'm never going to be a really good redhead, no matter how much I dye my hair, because I didn't walk the talk that Deborah did. I didn't live in that time or that space. And the same thing with you. I mean, look at where you came up from, in something as hyper local as, the kind of work you did as a chief economist, and being a woman, and being a mom, and being a single mom. I mean, there's so many factors that contribute to the character of a leader that we all either want to emulate and or share or figure out how to get. So we have a big job.
The other aspect of this is sounding a little Anne Randy, like we all like, it's all the individual, but the reality is that the society has changed, right? And the people that you see at the top has changed. And like just this year, we've seen just glass ceilings shattered all over the place, because, you can be raised in a family where you get all the right signals, and yet if the world looks very different, it's a lot harder. And maybe it's easier for someone like you, Terri. It was much harder for someone like me, and so just seeing the changes that have happened and what is acceptable today that was unheard of 30 years ago is just a really, you've got to kind of, it's important to have both. Recognizing the value of both of those. And I think one of the things that's attracted all of us to the real estate industry is how in general, women are very supported in this industry, and I've talked about it in a couple of my WomanUP speeches, that this isn't a kind of rabid feminist group because they haven't experienced what I experienced in the economics profession, right? It's very different there. In real estate, it's you're a top producer, you're great, so
right.
That's a really good nuances here.
Yeah, that's a really good point, because if you start looking at generational dynamics, what was acceptable, what wasn't. I interviewed one of the physicists that worked on the original RIN program. She was the only female physicist at NASA. at that time. And, that's a whole different thing. And for somebody who's 25, they can't even fathom that because it didn't happen in their time. So, we all bring out beautiful pieces when you talk about leadership to the puzzle, because where we walked gave us a different perspective. And when you use that collaboration, which, by the way, Humans Are Underrated. If you've not read that book,
that's our favorite book.
We love that book.
I know that book.
Well, what surprised me about that book was the second to the last chapter, it said women can rule the world. And I'm like, whoa, here's a guy that, is not trying to gender bash. But the fact is, when you study the anatomy of the brain for the female, with it being more collaborative, that makes sense because we're more collaborative. And I learned that when I was working with, do you remember the project NAR had where John and I we worked together. John, I went to Pleasanton and worked with the MLS people, and they were trading code with quote unquote competitors. It's like, really? Well, they were way more collaborative than we would have been 10 years ago. And again, so you're right, Leslie, that's a real good distinction about how society has changed. Good point. Very good point.
I love it. Well, and I think that we've, first of all, let's just go back to Humans Are Underrated. I think in 50% of the shows, we mention that book.
Oh, well, I didn't know that.
Like, it's crazy how often that book comes up. And I really think that's actually the first book that Sarah, Leslie, and I all Googled and Googled about. I mean, when we first started talking about WomanUP, we were like, everyone needs to read this book. So I love that it's standing, this is 4 years later, and we're still passionate about what that book has to say. And I agree. Leslie mentioned it, and you've mentioned it, and I've talked about it in the past, like the beauty of the WomanUP movement and the movements that you've created inside the Women's Wisdom Network, et cetera. It's not about being exclusive. It's about being inclusive.
Absolutely.
And we have the word woman or women in our title so that women know that they're welcome at this table, because for so many decades, they actually haven't been invited.
Right.
And so now we're like, hey, everybody come on over here. And it feels awkward at first. People are like, wait a minute. What do you mean?
Well, would you agree also that I think that WomanUP, and Leslie, I'm sure you'll have a comment on this, it's a safe place. I mean, it's women helping women, end of story. It's not a mean girl place. It's not a competitive place. And
Right.
Women's Wisdom Network was like that, 20 years ago. So it's a safe place for women where you're not gender bashing or, hating. Come on. I mean, settle down. You have to be the best you. The package you came in.
Settle down.
I would have not picked short and Italian. I'm just telling you that right now. I would not. I would have been an Amazon woman. I would have been 6'6" with heels. I would have been a big.
That's how we see you, Terri. If it's
You should have seen me at the store last night trying to get the top shelf. It was not pretty. I'm just saying. I look for tall people. I just look for tall people. I mean, and I refuse to bring that thingy. Forget it.
The grabber. From Grace and Frankie, that was a hilarious episode. I often help the little nonas at the grocery store.
And unfortunately, as you get older, you get shorter, which is just terrifying me. I'll be disappearing. But my point is that I think it's been a change, because one of the reasons I started Women's Wisdom Network years ago was just to bring education to women who couldn't afford it. That's what I was doing through podcasts, which weren't even popular at the time. But more important than that, I just feel like women were competitive, coming from scarcity versus abundance. And maybe now, Leslie, since we've had the ability to share globally, like WomanUP, I mean, look what that did. That goes way beyond your knowing, just way beyond your knowing. And how women can learn from other women or from their story, or give themselves permission to be less than perfect and okay at being not good at this, but really good at this. I think that's the gift that goes beyond the camaraderie and the support. Yeah, because when you can change a person's why and permission to be all right with going to the next step, I think you've created an amazing energy that will carry on far beyond us.
Amen.
So that's a really good segue in terms of getting back to the whole leadership thing. And any big lessons from leadership or in your leadership that you've learned this year that you could share with us? Because it certainly has been a year for firsts.
Well, let's just, I think the key word here is adaptability. The women that the people that I've interviewed, whether they're restaurateurs, you know, cupcakes, you know, cupcake companies, real estate, is that so I like to look at it this way, and I wrote about this. Is it a roadblock or a rabbit hole? Now I'm going to tell you, back in February when this all happened, rabbit hole was just fine. You know, everybody got in their yoga pants, their pajamas, and we figured out, oh yeah, we're just going to be comfortable for a week. But then it occurred to us that this was a roadblock, and you could look at it either as a roadblock, as an inconvenience, or a new way to discover things that you typically would not have discovered. And so we found ways to connect and collaborate. And so adaptability was one thing that I see leaders doing and going, okay, that didn't work, we're going to try this. And that didn't work, we're going to try this. And be brave enough to do that. I was doing a leadership academy for the Memphis Association, their graduates, where we'd met and, you know, we had all the fun with and then all of a sudden we couldn't. And of course, there was that curve, you know, the not so perfect, beautiful curve of getting on Zoom without the cat and the husband in the background with the pajamas and the whole thing. But they were brave enough. They were audacious enough to go out there and try something different. And so adaptability works with collaboration, because I don't have a problem calling you and saying, did this work for you? What else could we do? I mean, look at, you know, Verbella. I mean, that's totally new. And it was interesting to watch all the chat and to be on it. So adaptability is key. I think it has raised the level, and I'll use the word feminine here, Deborah, collaboration, because all of us are smarter than one of us. And it's never been easier to do that. I mean, there you are in California, she's in Florida, I'm stuck in Memphis, God's time out. And we're still able to collaborate. Well, if you were here, you'd understand that. You would understand that. So the collaboration gives me perspective, which I could not walk that walk. I couldn't experience that. And boy, when you look at someone else and say, what do I know that can help you? What have I done that can help you? That safety piece comes out, Deborah, because they're like, why would you help me? Why not? You know, what could happen? What's the worst that can happen or the best that can happen as a leader for adaptability? And so you got to get out of ego. It is not your way or the highway. Ego is not your friend ever after about 7 years old. And believe me, it's there because none of us wants to be less valued. None of us want to be, no, it's pretty tough to look like an idiot in front of a million people. But you know what? That's what happens. I mean, some days it goes and some days it's called Murphy's Law, which is apparently why one of the husbands was named Murphy. I'm just saying.
One of the husbands. Well, I think adaptability, well, I know this, that when Sarah and I were putting together our notes to host the networking sessions at NAR this week, we went through, you know, with the virtual highlighter and looked at the words that came up the most in our Leading Through a Crisis series, and adaptability was at the top of that list. Resilience was also on that list. And it's so important. It's so important.
The second word that I would want to inject in there is empathy. And you got that in Humans Are Underrated, because empathy is not, I don't want to say sympathy because it sounds the same, but it's about listening and hearing. And unfortunately, if you study conversational intelligence and emotional intelligence, you know that you'll write a story based on your beliefs and your systems and your experiences, which may be inaccurate. And so when you're really empathetic, you're more open to hearing and listening. And I think women do that well. I mean, if you're married, you understand women do that well. I'm sorry, did I say that out loud? I did. But I mean that, yeah, hello? I mean, I'm using sign language now, you know, just to get across something. But I think empathy, because you know, Father, forgive them, they know not what they do. They can only evaluate from where they are. And so when you bring that element of leadership, which says, look, what if you tried it this way? What if, let's just talk about this, give me your feedback. That brings in collaboration, it brings in adaptability, and I think empathy. At the end of the day, people are fragile. I think Tammy Bennell just posted that. Use your words kindly because hearts are fragile.
Yeah.
Nobody tries to be an idiot. Nobody says, let me live that moment just one more time so I could screw it up just a little bit more. I mean,
Right.
they all want the ginormous eraser on the pencil. And I think we have to be forgiving.
Yeah. The giving each other grace, giving ourselves grace, on grace, giving each other that. And also, you know, there was this is like a decade plus ago. I remember sitting in church and the pastor saying, we judge ourselves on our intentions, but we don't do that for others. We judge them on their actions.
That is good.
And,
I like that.
And we so desperately, I mean, the red flag for me in any circumstance is when I either hear or I'm getting ready to say, that wasn't my intention. Because we all so desperately seek for what is happening in here to actually come out that way.
When you study communication, you've got gender, generational, global, emotional, conversational intelligence, which is done automatically in your brain without without you paying attention. You think about words. I mean, my whole TED talk was on words, so I just can tell you that it's amazing that we communicate at all. And then you take away the physical.
It's amazing we communicate at all.
Well, I'm serious. I mean, you think about that and you take away the physical connection. Now, this is experiential, so, we can see and hear, but you take away the actual physical electronic exchange of energy when we're face to face, where other than consciously we're reading signals and interpreting. We can misinterpret. And so I always have to go back with, oh my God, that's not how I intended that. Because especially if you're snarky and you're from Chicago and they're from the South, they don't get it. Or they do about 2 years later. I mean, I don't know. But I really, my goal is never to hurt anyone because I chose the wrong word or tone or body language or something. So I think that you're right with that. That is a great quote. Good, Deborah. I'm going to share that one.
Well, and I think that's, we've again heard that throughout the last 10 months or so, as we were all starting to wonder what was going to happen. And now we've all been in our homes with the same people every day and night and day and night. and
what are you trying to say, Deborah?
Well, that it simply is such an important reminder to slow down and to be careful about judging others when their words might have been harsh. Because I do feel that, I mean, it's kind of like, remember a year ago or so when we were all talking about those youngins who do all their communication with their thumbs, and about how, gosh, what's going to happen when they have to actually look and see people in person? It's like, well, we're all kind of there.
Yeah.
Like, can you imagine what the world's going to be like next year when we're all together again, God willing?
I hope.
Like, geez, I can't hit delete and start that sentence all over again. Like, it's going to be something that we're going to need to exercise in, and I think that's super important.
Well, and how about touching? I mean, everybody's been like, and so, and now you're worried about every germ you ever had. Now, remember growing up as kids, we ate bugs and sticks on the street. I mean, it didn't make any difference. And now it's, if we don't have handy wipes everywhere. So it's going to be an interesting transition back into being social. I agree.
Yeah.
But always be kind. Always be kind. I mean, nobody has any power. Everybody who croaks does not take their stuff with them. And so the stuff is just material. I mean, and everybody has a junk drawer. Trust me. Right now, if I came to your house, you have a junk drawer. So and nobody's better than or less than. So when you really understand that people are doing the best they can to be their best version, and that's where I think WomanUP comes in. And one of the best takeaways I got from WomanUP this year, because it was different. I mean, you had to sit.
Right.
You weren't like moving around. And I would have loved to have seen your daughters, Leslie. That was the chat that was going. I was like, oh, we want to see our daughters.
They're pretty spectacular.
Well, yeah, you made them yourself. Hello. But I will tell you that was the collective intellect of the perspective that you got. So even with the opening speaker, which it first set me back a little bit. I'm thinking, well, what a way to start this off. But then as it rolled out, I realized the value of observing how other people interpret where they are and what they are, and how we can all be of support to each other to show different perspectives, values, beliefs, approaches. That is priceless. I mean, that is like, and if you're like me and you take copious notes, I go back and refer to them a lot, things that people had said and how they said it. Like you just talked about intention. That's one of those ahas that you keep using, because it keeps you grounded in what you want to focus on. So leaders focus on the possibilities. At this point of my life, I won't say you, Leslie, it's, we've climbed the ladder. We've done lots of wonderful, incredible things. And now it's time to help somebody else up the ladder.
Oh, I believe that 100%.
It's legacy for
where
me.
I am. Yep.
Yeah. And so, you figure if you only have like 20 Christmases left, first of all, have a good time. But second of all, what's the legacy going to be? It won't be all the junk you leave behind. I've seen too many estate sales at real estate for that. It's more about, you said, that one comment, that one perspective, that one touch, that one acknowledgement that goes so far beyond your knowing, which is where the power of leadership, I think, really is.
Yeah, Terri, you're one of these people, and there's a friend of mine, Kathy Sharit, who's very similar, where I just always wish I had a tape recorder, because it just kind of, the conversation flows, and just so many just aha moments that just kind of blow me away from your comments. So I look forward to listening this again. But just the quote about, leaders focus on possibilities. I just love that. Absolutely.
I'm telling you, every roadblock is a gift. I mean, when I slammed into a concrete wall and everything changed in a minute. Italians, especially old country Italians, it's like, who died? I mean, nobody ever gets like, what's new, it's immediately who died. I mean, it was one of the best tests in gratitude I think I'd ever had. Gratitude for the sacred and the ordinary, things that, I mean, everybody gets depressed. I mean, we've been, like I said, like 10% sequestered with people, the same people. And one of my favorite books, and I don't know, Deborah, if you've ever read her, but Sarah Van Brainack. If you look at this book,
oh yeah,
can you
Simple
see
Abundance? Is that what that is?
Can you see how destroyed this book is?
I love it.
And one of my goals is to meet her, because I don't know how as a writer she could do this. But when you find such grace in the ordinary, those micro moments, Leslie, those tiny little connections that turn out to be like the mega highway of your life, the meeting of a person, that, like you said, the kindness of a word, the encouragement, somebody just paying attention to you. To me, that's just the most glorious thing for me, is the joy of seeing someone else elevate, because maybe you helped them up that ladder. And I think that's what we're talking about. And again, you when you look at the millions of people you've talked to, or shown them to look at something different, and they maybe helped a buyer or a seller or a team or a company, you just don't even know where that went. Not your job. Your job is to be that vessel. And I think you've done that well.
I would agree. Well, I think you two ladies in particular, even in the green room, you're joking around about how Terri used to travel with wait, Johnny. Is that how you said it? Johnny.
Yeah.
Like that your paths have been, woven together over the years, and
go figure.
And we didn't even know it.
And you didn't even know it. And that's, that is the be kind. Be kind is for a reason. We are touching people we don't even realize that we are blessing with what it is that we're doing. And when I'm sure there's some of the like grind and grit from you traveling with John that has has given him the shine that he has now, that was able to bring the two of them together. I mean, we are all in this together, and it's a beautiful journey that we are on as leaders. And as we love to talk about in the WomanUP community, we believe that the more diversity we have at the tables every day, every week, every year, it is only going to improve this industry. It is only going to be better for the consumers, better for the agents, better for the brokers, better for the executives, because we are going to see and recognize more of these red threads between each other, and realize that it's part of who we are. And now we always hate this part because we're getting close to the top of the hour and we're going to need to close this out. But I want to know, what are you cooking up right now, Terri? Like, what are you doing? Are you writing? Are you dancing? Are you singing? What are you doing over there?
No, none of that. Where those days are gone. I am, back about 4 years ago, I worked with an industrial behavioral psychologist who wrote an assessment for behavioral interviewing. And he is an interesting man. I'll just leave it at that. And he wanted to find a partner, a girlfriend. And he asked me what my process was for finding Hudson. I'm like, what? There was no process involved there. So we started studying behavioral interviewing and did 250 interviews with women on their selection process for a male. Now, this is highly scientific. It was not just, an interview. And we were writing a book on Smart Women, Smarter Choices, how to find the right relationship with a dash of science. And I will tell you that what came from that was, because the book is not completed, but it's going to be completed this year, because it's taken a different thread. And that's one of those things that the universe does for you. But there are so many myths that are common to Miss America. I mean, I have interviewed 2 Miss Americas who have the sash and the crown. And by the way, Leslie, there's never in the history of the Miss America pageant been an Italian woman. We just don't get.
How is that possible?
We win the mustache competition every year, but we never get farther than that. But it has never been like, we do win Miss Congeniality because we make people like us. But the point being that even they have these fragilities that are universal. They're myths. And if I only knew then what I know now, is a big part of that. So I'm working on that. I'm looking at building up. We're doing a television show, which was Women's Wisdom Wednesdays on radio. Now we're translating that. And I'm also putting together an 8-week mastery for women in business, because I want to just help as many people as possible, not step in it. Because I can tell you, I have. And so what can you do to help people not be demotivated because there are some avoidable barriers? Does that make sense?
It does. I think that's so beautiful. And that it's the paying it forward. It's the, really, I love the dash of science. All I could see was that guy, the salt guy. Remember the salt guy? The salt little dash of science.
Yeah.
I love getting smart about that. I love getting smart about, learning neuroscience, learning why we make the decisions we make, how we make the decisions we make. I think all of those things lead us to what we started talking about at the beginning, which is how we're speaking with our children is different. How we're looking at leadership is different. Why Sue stepping in to be the first female leader of Realogy matters. We're seeing it. We're seeing the ripple effects of every pebble any of us toss in that water. The ripple effects are seen. It's just, we're seeing them at higher levels with brighter lights shining on these women. And I am so thankful that you are here with us today. I'm so thankful that you joined us. If they want to learn more about you as a woman, and if they want to work with you, I know you have terrimurphy.com, but you also have a Facebook group. And I want to make sure that if anybody wants to plug into that, they know where. So
Leslie, Terri Murphy in San Francisco, the AE, he gets all my stuff. And it's just rude that he has a full beard. I'm just saying. So we're good friends, but it's Terri with an I. Thank you very much. And the Women's Wisdom Network Facebook community group is what we're building, so we can share some of these things, because some women are just too busy. And my goal is to post some. I just interviewed Pastor Sheila Floyd, who wrote a book here, Creative Not Crazy, because she suffered from serious depression, did not know that. And here's a woman who is accomplished. So we go from success to significance, and that's my goal. So I want to profile, I want people to have hope, and I want them to know it's a safe place, and we're here to love them, even if we can't touch them, which is hard when you're Italian, but you know, it's a free zone for being the best you, essentially.
I love it. Well, I just dropped the link into your Terri with an I website and your Facebook group. Any last words of wisdom that you have for Leslie or the community or me or anyone out there who's listening to the replay?
Yeah, I just think you got to be gentler with yourself. I mean, we are brutal. We are brutal to ourselves. And my goal and what I've got left is to just kind of appreciate the goofball that I am, and just know that it's okay to just be you, because everybody else is taken. So just do a great job. Don't worry about what anybody else is doing or how they're doing it, or they got a trust fund and you didn't. Just be the best version of you.
I love that.
Love that.
So beautiful. Again, thank you for being with us, Terri. Thank you to the WomanUP community who watched us live. Those of you who are catching the replay, make sure you do let us know that you were here. And if you've got any questions for Terri, of course, drop them in the comments. She will be back to answer
We love
those
you,
for
Terri.
you. Yes.
I
Thank you
love
so
you guys.
much.
Thank you.
And we won't see you next week on the show. We're taking that off for Black Friday, sales, insanity, whatever people are doing. So have a happy Thanksgiving, everyone. However that looks for you this year. May you find the beautiful in the change.
And we'll see you in December.
Yes.
Yay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Ciao. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody.